Hello, ladies and gents. Hagbard Celine here in the Leaf Erikson, bringing you another beautiful video about feminism. This one's from a group called Feminist Fridays, and this one in particular is, well, it's just golden. Let's just hop right into it, and we'll see what madness lays ahead.
As many of you know, I am a young, naive, idealistic college student who's just trying to learn about the world and figure shit out.
Now, what would be refreshing is if she was being completely honest here, and she actually was just trying to figure things out, and wasn't about to go on a 5-minute ideological rant about something she recently learned in college that actually has no application to real life. Jeez.
I'm also a women's studies major, which often gets quite a few groans, maybe some insults from commenters. I want to say from other people in my life, but mostly from commenters.
Aw, well, you expected me. That's so nice. Just know that being a women's studies major with a minor in communication is the intellectual equivalent of navel-gazing while masturbating.
I think there are quite a few misconceptions about being a women's and gender studies major.
No, I'm gonna guess that you make B-rate YouTube videos, you end every statement you make like a question, and that you have some really skewed views on reality. Am I close?
So I wanted to answer some of your guys' questions about what my experience has been like. Also, what even is the alternative for you guys? Words are so unnecessarily gendered, man.
You don't even know we're working on the second generation of this, do you? You don't know the history of the words girl and boy, do you? Did you know boy means servant or slave? You guys did that the first time around. What are you trying to do this time?
So I asked you all what your questions were about just the study of women. And y'all, I can't say y'all. I can't say it. I can't say y'all. Y'all, you all gave me some really good questions on Twitter and Tumblr, so here we go.
Considering the medium is Twitter and Tumblr, I am absolutely certain that these questions will just be the most in-depth and qualified questions. These are going to be great. I'm absolutely certain of it. You have all of my faith.
How do other students react when you tell them their major?
Hopefully with wild, cackling laughter, because that's all your major deserves.
How does/did your family react? Typically, most other students that I come into contact with are either in my women's studies classes, so it's fine, or they're in communication studies classes, and I think communications is super important.
So you literally live in that echo chamber. You just absorb everything from that echo chamber and call that your reality. You don't even have criticism in your life, do you? You deal with communications majors and women's studies majors.
Obviously, but it's also kind of accused of being a useless major, so I don't really think comm students are going to be too judgy about it.
Yes, it would be entirely too much like the pot calling the kettle black, or in this case, you're the pot and you're minoring in kettle.
When I told my family about it, I had already been studying English for 3 years. So when I was like, yo, I'm going to switch from English to women's studies, they were just kind of like, you know what? There's no worse. We're not getting any worse here. It's a pretty lateral move in the eyes of parents thinking your major is useless.
All right, stop. Let's just be really honest here. You dropped out of English because it required you learn too much. English lit studies are not easy. English lit studies are dense and difficult. But it's much easier to read novels and little cutesy political science books written by feminists about poli-sci than it is to ever deal with the in-depth language of Chaucer and things like that. No, you're not going to do that. You're just going to read a book by a feminist, recite that book by a feminist, and call yourself a priest.
What is the homework like? Just so much reading and so much writing. But it is kind of cool because generally in my classes either we don't have a textbook or we have a textbook along with multiple other readings from different writers.
So it was super easy then. You didn't have to focus, you didn't actually have to in-depth learn one subject, you could be flighty.
So it's refreshing to get a new perspective every night instead of having to read like the same dull textbook every single day and getting super tired of it. I'm also a communications minor, so I'm always really surprised when it's just like one essay for the whole semester.
What we're witnessing is the death of academia in Western culture. Jesus Christ, woman, really? Essay writing is your entire thing? Just you have a whole major and a minor that's just sitting around writing essays and reading books? Really?
What I've noticed is that women's studies tends to be more essay based, and rarely will I have like an exam or a quiz in a women's studies class.
That's because a women's studies class is entirely opinion based, thus you cannot exactly test for it as there are no facts involved.
But we will have like 3 or 4 essays. Could you discuss if people bring in their axes of privilege and oppressive bias and how that plays out? Yeah, definitely. There are definitely a lot of students who, at the beginning of the semester, will be a little bit like white feminist. I had to speak up about like a couple white women in my classes who either tried to minimize racism or one of them was kind of just like, cops' lives matter, and just like dismiss the brutality that, you know, black people and brown people face from the police.
Of course, ignoring the brutality they give to the police, of course, and, you know, the brutality they give to each other, which is the real problem that should be focused on by the Black Lives Matter movement. But instead, they're just running around on the streets yelling at cops, which is, of course, the best way to avoid contact with or agitation from the police. Geniuses.
So that was frustrating, but generally when that does happen, other students who have been in the program for a while will address that and like point out the different spheres of privilege that person might be like looking at things through. And it's never like a big fight or a big issue. It's normally just corrected and then we move on from that.
I feel like you're downplaying the fact that what actually happened is they were called out and publicly shamed until they agreed with you. That's what actually happened. You didn't try and discuss things. You didn't bring up facts. You brought up the fifis and you shamed them. Congratulations. You won.
What jobs can you do with a women's and gender studies degree, and what do you plan on doing with it?
Basically, you can teach women's studies, or you can do nothing. Or you can make YouTube videos and make them financially profitable. Or you can hit the lecture scene and further spread this ridiculously regressive ideology around the land.
I think nowadays there's a lot of flexibility with a lot of different majors. I can only speak for what I want to do with my degree, which I always feel a little bit like ridiculous or idealistic when I talk about it, because I'll be talking to like a bio major who has
a skill set, ability, a functional degree, a future, something to give society.
A very specific job lined up after they graduate, and I'm just like, I don't know, I want to do everything.
What?
So with my combination of like women's studies and communications, I kind of want to continue doing what I do now.
This is the fucking future, people. Look upon it in horror. This adult child thinks she's going to accomplish something positive ranting about feminism on YouTube for the rest of her life, as far as I can tell.
Where I can use social media as a tool to educate and advocate for different social issues. I'd really like to do some kind of like web series or show at some point in the future. I really like Cheska Lee's MTV Decoded and Laci Green's MTV Brawless. I think that those are really cool, and I'd love to be able to do that for a living.
Seriously, this is what young women are fucking aspiring to, people. This is what it's come to. Thank you, Laci fucking Green. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anita Sarkeesian. Thank you for making this a job goal for young women. Not doing something worthwhile, but sitting around and bitching on camera. Congratulations, you've changed the world for the better.
How interdisciplinary is your program? I'd say very, because my program is interdisciplinary, so I get to take classes from all different types of subjects. So I've taken psychology classes, anthropology classes, sociology, criminal justice, history, communications, English, like you name it, which I think is really cool because a lot of the time, if I do get criticism from other people about women's studies, they like to act like women's studies classes are like this tiny little bubble.
You said women's studies was a tiny little bubble. You said mostly you interacted with either communications degrees or other women's studies students. How does this occur if not within a bubble, dear?
But really, it's like all over the board, so you're just taking a wide variety of different classes.
This is referred to as survey. This means you took 101 levels of a bunch of classes and now think you actually know something about them. You don't. You know the headlines. You haven't even read an article yet. You don't even understand that, which is fucking terrifying, that you think that having taken survey courses on these subjects is... And how is this part of a feminism major? How, or a women's studies major? How does this even work? How do you just take a smattering of classes around campus and that's... Ta-da! I have studied women throughout everything, in all time and places, and all subject matters.
I don't know about other schools, but that's just how my school is. How intersectional / inclusive of issues like race and disability are the classes in general? I'd say very inclusive of race, less so about disability. Not so much that it's necessarily using language that's ableist, but we don't read a lot from like disabled authors or about disability like topics in general.
About disability topics in general. Weren't you an English major? What happened to all that? Ah, fuck it. The women's studies must have eaten out part of your brain. But you seriously expect this to... People, that's the problem with people like you. You actually expect this to be a fucking, like, everything course. You expect to understand life, the universe, and everything. That's why people see it as a religious belief, because you're using it to answer all of the questions of the universe. And that's just not possible, especially not with a fucking women's studies degree and a bunch of survey courses.
So I would say that that's something that would be like nice to learn more about. Are most of your classes discussion oriented, or is it just the intro level ones? All of my classes have been like 80% or more discussion oriented, which is so great.
Because it means you didn't have to learn any facts or figures or long form concepts. You just sat around and chit-chatted in a classroom about issues that directly affected members involved in the class. It's navel-gazing.
Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up because I'm sure this is probably really long.
The fuck it was. It was like 6 minutes. Put a little effort into this. God damn, you said you wanted to do this for a living. Tighten up.
But I did get a lot of questions asking my favorite texts that I've read, so I'm gonna link those below in the description. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this one. Also, this is completely voluntary, but if you'd like to help support Feminist Fridays and this channel, then please consider donating to my Patreon page, which will be drinked below.
Well, good. I'm glad it's finally over, and I'm glad that, helping you pay for things via your Patreon is voluntary. Otherwise, you would actually be admitting that you were a bunch of totalitarianistic nutjobs trying to enforce linguistic use to change people's behavior, which is just totally creepy. And listen, when you have made someone that ostensibly, though he never finished, was going to major in philosophy, when you get someone like me to call your group a bunch of introspective navel gazers not interested in solving the problems of the world, understand who's criticizing you. I mean, really, understand that when I insult your degrees, I knew my degree's not a whole lot better, if any better, but at very least, we're taught to respect the concepts and tenets of logic, which you guys seem to have absolutely no concepts of. You have no concepts of facts. You have no concepts of reality, as it were. You're all you're a group of soliplists who all see the world as having direct effect on you without being able to understand that every other individual in the world is also having similar experiences. It just becomes about the experience inside you and what you personally have experienced and what people similar to you have experienced. It doesn't accomplish anything. It serves no broader goals. It has no purpose other than to arbitrarily empower people and disempower others. That is its sole purpose. Sorry that one was kind of ranty. Thanks for sticking through it, everyone. I'll catch up with you guys on Friday.